Yeah, Sezno. I'm sure this video has been made before by other people. I've even kind of made this video before, but it was a while ago, and most of you weren't here for that. I want to communicate my thoughts on this succinctly. Also, man, I need to start plugging more shit in these videos. Follow me on the gram and check out my merch store. I got a lot of cool t-shirts there. Woohoo! There's that famous interview of Nirvana, the one on the hotel balcony from '93, where Kurt Cobain says, verbatim, "I'm not into musicianship at all. I don't have any respect for it. I just hate it. To learn how to read music or to understand arpeggios and Dorian modes is just a waste of time. It gets in the way of originality." And I love Nirvana, and I love Kurt. If you know who I am, you probably know that shit by now. But what he says there is something that I unequivocally disagree with him on, and I will for the rest of my life. He's wrong about, let's just call it music theory, full stop. Or at least he was wrong about it at the moment that he said that. Who knows if he ever had or ever would have revised his view. In my opinion, though, this take and how he expressed it, whether he intended this or not, is actually kind of harmful to the future generations of musicians, including my own, people who know who Kurt was and who pay close attention to what he said about anything. Because let's face it, millions of people have probably seen that clip and heard those words come out of his mouth. And I have met musicians in my life who have basically said that same thing back to me, word for word. I want to explain why on Kurt's end I think this was irresponsible, or at the very least, like, insufficiently considered. With all respect, of course. I mean, this is not meant to be like a call out or like a gotcha type video, you know? It's more of a larger conversation piece about how music theory is sometimes viewed these days in general. Specifically, and somewhat ironically, by the people who would stand to benefit the most from it. In my sphere of music, Kurt Cobain is a useful jumping off point for this discussion because he's on the record saying something so cut and dry about it. So on the one hand, Kurt saying this is completely in line with his character. His legacy is deeply tied to how he advocated DIY mentalities with art, free expression, punk rock, be yourself and do it authentically, and create and don't let anybody tell you what to do. So it makes complete sense to me that he would associate music theory with essentially the opposite of that, with like academia and artistic restrictions, and frankly, just like musical conservatism, the idea that music has such things as right and wrong. We love Kurt in large part because he's not formally trained. He's the antithesis of formally trained. It contributes massively to his authenticity. But what I take issue with in what he said is the idea that theory is a corrupting force for a person's creativity. That theory will actually hinder a songwriter, a musician, from being their authentic selves. And this is just absolutely false. Kurt Cobain would not have been any less authentic if he knew what the Dorian mode was. And I don't think it would have changed his music as much as some people might believe. Like, are Tom York and Johnny Greenwood any less authentic than Kurt? Any less original than Kurt? Because they clearly know a little bit of theory? Maybe I'm taking him too literally here, but that's not a valid argument in my opinion, because theory doesn't write your songs for you. Kurt would not have gone to C instead of C sharp in the chorus of About a Girl because C sharp is not in the key of E minor. Now, of course, Kurt would hardly be the first person in rock music to like espouse this view, you know, anti-theory rhetoric, if you want to call it that. Like, there's that clip of the Beatles in their younger days where this like reporter asks them what they make of all these writers talking about their like Aeolian cadences or whatever, and they just like shrug it off. So Kurt wasn't exactly in like uncharted territory here. Obviously, you don't have to learn music theory to be a good musician, whatever that means. But exposing yourself to that world won't make you a worse musician. It'll give you better command and technique and understanding of what is already there. And I should also mention that Kurt's ear was exceptional, and that he wrote a ton of melodies and progressions that are like an anomaly on a theory level. I may do a video explaining Kurt's usage of modes, specifically mixed modes in his melodies and progressions. Let me know if you're interested in that. So Kurt was guided by his ear, and his respectfully, limited technical means, and we all get to benefit from that. But let's be honest, not every songwriter has Kurt's ear. It is true that you should trust your ear, but it's also true that theory can clue you into options that wouldn't be there if you knew zero theory. Theory doesn't ever limit you to one option. I don't know why people say this. It gives you a multitude of options. Kurt made it work. Of course, he did not need theory, and we're still talking about him. I am not disputing that for even a second. Bro, I listen to Nirvana, and the whole experience is just like me going, how the fuck did he come up with this shit? Like, what a genius. You know how many chords are in Bloom? You know how strange that song is if you actually break it down? But just because Kurt found no use for theory, it does not mean that it'll be that way for you. It's not gonna get in the way of your originality. Don't believe that just because Kurt said that. I hope I don't sound condescending or anything. It's not the point. I can say that for me as a songwriter, I can identify a before and an after in the quality of my writing after I cultivated an interest in theory. And that doesn't mean that I make dry, academic music, which is what some people assume will be the result from studying music theory. A textbook doesn't tell you what to write. It defines for you how to understand what you're hearing in your head, and it explains why certain things in music work the way they do. Also, it allows you to tap into a language for referring to music that many other musicians also speak, if you will. It makes communication and collaboration far easier. It doesn't hinder your creativity. If you approach it with the right mentality, it can deepen your creativity exponentially. That's about all I have to say about it. So, thanks. Bye.